Two guys and a goalie.
Babcock's gone. The Blue Jackets had an availability. They made a major mistake. Cass, your thoughts on how this looks on that organization?
Out of all the hires, this is the one that we felt was going to make us the best. Quite clearly, it was not.
It's just a weird kind of thing to do, to ask someone to look at their phone and the pictures on their phone. If you think by seeing a photo you're going to learn a lot about a person, then follow them on social media. I'm sure if Mike Babcock requested to follow a few members of his Columbus Blue Jackets, what he did was wrong. He hasn't changed a bit.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey. Saturday mornings at 10. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Friend of EST, Eric Thomas, takes you around the track all the way to the checkered flag on Raceline Radio. Tuesday nights at 8 and Saturday morning at 9. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The EST Hangout.
Manawanek, Tom Gazzola.
Yeah.
As well as we got Min Darwell from CBC and Doug McLean, Golden Bears Pandas analyst, along with the Stingers.
I think the older this kid gets,
Connor?
you're starting to see glimpses of what we're not privy to inside that room.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, now we're starting to see these guys put a stamp on this team. I think that culture that they're creating, instead of having it top down where it has a trickle down effect, I think it's working both ways where it kind of dictates what happens with the executive and the hockey side of the front office.
EST Hangout, weekday mornings at 9, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey. Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back inside the Lock Shop. I've taken off my Coolbet hoodie to make it look different than the guy who was just on the Hangout for the last 2 hours. And now I'm here with Huss. And Huss, I got to say, buddy, your Coolbet shirt, where do we get one of these red Coolbet shirts? That's really nice, man.
This was part of the Qatar collection. Jake and I were rocking these out in the World Cup. So we had...
Don't worry, Huss. Yeah, I got you. Maddie's just going to fix a little echo. We're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got a white one, a black one, and a red one. And we repped Coolbet over at the
those are nice.
World Cup in Qatar. Good. You know what? I'll say this about the Coolbet merch. And a lot of WSTers will agree with this because gave away a bunch of it at the sports trivia night last week. But whoever they got their stuff from, very, very well made. Like, my favorite hoodie is by far the Coolbet hoodie.
Love my Coolbet hoodie, buddy. I got like 3 of them.
I will agree.
Yeah.
And these shirts are awesome too. But I wanted to have something red hot to represent the picks that have been coming up. God. And listen, I didn't want to make too big of it a deal of it because I was actually pretty psyched out. But towards the end of August, like I was in such a slump just finding, and I would go and I'd make 4 or 5 bets a night, but the one that I'd put out for the play of the day was always the one that would be wrong.
Yeah.
Like I had the best day, but the one that I put out.
The kid is back.
I just said I just needed to get to football season and then everything would turn around. And that's exactly what's happened. We had the 2-banger on Monday. And then last night I said, if you want to be more conservative, jump on Kikuchi over 5.5 strikeouts at -135. He got that, I think, in the first 3 innings or so.
No big deal.
Awesome last night. And then the Jays money line was -102. And shout out to Scotty who sent me a message. He parlayed them together and got them at +190. So it was nice. Big win for the Blue Jays. Had to have that one to start off. And listen, it was too bad Kikuchi had to leave with cramps, but that's what happens when you only get 11 hours of sleep.
Don't even get me started. I went off on this around 6:45 this morning.
This is my guy, Dusty, as you can imagine.
I'm into hour number 6 of broadcasting in a row this morning. Like Kikuchi, how in the world does anyone, when he says, I only got 11 hours of sleep, I usually get 13 to 14. Huss, how do you find the time to sleep for 13 to 14 hours? You're going to sleep 14 hours a day and try to accomplish everything you need to accomplish in 10 hours while you're awake? I just don't believe it. We thought maybe it was lost in the translation from the translator because it just doesn't make sense to me. How does a human, and I saw somebody on Twitter last night say that he has a kid. How in the world can you sleep 13 to 14 hours when you have a child to look after? I don't get it.
Listen, he's got a lovely wife. I believe her name is Yumi. And who, by the way, is a great Instagram follow if you understand Japanese. Does some great Instagram lives, although I have no idea what they're talking about. But maybe what she's doing is talking about parenting while Kikuchi gets his beauty sleep ready for his next start. Hey, listen, different cultures, different things. And hey, his main job is to go out and win games for the Toronto Blue Jays. He did that last night. And you know what? If he needs a good 13 or 14 hours in the rack every night, you just got to let him do it. And, it's great for her. She gets plenty of quality time to herself.
Yeah, that's true.
She knows that he's not running around, doing things he shouldn't be doing. Basically, the guy gets up, he eats, he pitches, and he sleeps 13 to 14 hours a day.
I sleep 4 hours a day. Last night, I went to bed at like 11:15, and I was excited. I was like, oh my God, I get to sleep 5 hours. This is amazing. And then I come in today and I sit down here and I'm shaking off the cobwebs and I'm trying to get fired up for a show. And I see this tweet, Kikuchi cramps due to only 11 hours of sleep. I was like, you son of a bee. Like that's crazy to me. I did
think of you immediately when when I saw that quote last night afterwards. And hey, I mean, listen, you're wired a little differently doing this morning radio gig for so long.
I guess.
And listen, you do it by choice now. The
That's true.
station shut down. You guys wanted to bring the Nielsen show back. The Nielsen show could have been at any point in the day, but you went AM nasty, doing it for the early morning, the 6 o'clockers. So listen, Kikuchi probably wouldn't have chosen the morning show. He would have maybe done,
Kikuchi goes for 20 minutes at 2 o'clock. That's it. Like, yeah,
exactly.
It's too good. Anyway,
big game though last night. Just seriously, as far as the Blue Jays, I mean, that was
with the other two teams winning too, right? Huss, like they had to have that one.
Well, and you know what? I'll be honest. I got to give Jake a shout out because he dropped that info yesterday in the chat about the magic number, and I'm still kind of confused as to how that works. But the bottom line is, if those two teams, Texas and Seattle, are playing each other, I believe head to head 7 times before the end of the season, it really is there for the Blue Jays. I mean, it's impossible for both of those teams to go on a run because of those 7 dates. One of those teams is going to be losing every single day. So it's time for the Jays to, kind of take care of business. I'm still working on what the play of the day is for tonight. I mean, to be honest, I might just lean on Jays money line with Gosman rolling it out again. I think it's minus 122 right now for Toronto. But all the pitchers, the entire team, I think, just wants to erase what happened last week. What a huge sweep they had on the weekend against Boston. And then to get win number 1 against the Yankees, a little bit of a 4-game winning streak. They needed it. They stay in that spot right now. These are big games. And I do wonder, like Tampa is where they're going to be. I guess they probably still are in somewhat striking distance of the Orioles. But, in that final series, how much are they going to be carrying whether they win or lose? Or are they going to be trying to knock the Blue Jays out? I guess the Rays are 2.5 back of the division titles. So those games could be very important for them. But if that's not, I mean, maybe they kind of lay down a little bit for them. But you got to get these games against the Yankees right now. And they got it last night. They got their ace on the hill tonight. So much better situation than Friday when we were all writing eulogies for the 2023 Blue Jay.
I don't know if I've ever seen things turn around that quickly in a playoff race like that, with both teams getting swept the way they did. We talked about it yesterday. I mean, it's rather remarkable that all of a sudden the Blue Jays are back in the driver's seat after being swept by one of the teams that they were battling with, while the other team that they were battling with was also sweeping somebody. It was crazy. Savage the Plumber in the YouTube chat. If you're watching right now, you can text, or if you're listening on the live stream at edmontonsportstalk.com, you can text us at 780-218-9999. Savage the Plumber says, hey guys, I missed the show yesterday. I was dying in my bed. Glad to be here live. I think it was the mating dolphins that I heard that healed me. And that might have been the case with Aaron Rodgers listening to the dolphins having sex to help heal himself quicker, which is quite the scene, but right up his alley.
Aaron Rodgers. I wonder whether he was calling. Like, who is he still dating the daughter of the Milwaukee Bucks? That Mallory Edens or whatever?
I thought he was dating a witch last time I saw.
Well, yes. No, he and Blue of Earth broke up.
Oh, they broke up.
But I was thinking that right now, considering what's happened to him, he may potentially feel like she put some sort of a hex on him.
Oh, no.
Or there may need to be some, coming together with Blue of Earth, potentially for some holistic healing practices, or potentially just to make sure that he's not cursed by Blue of Earth.
I can't take you seriously when you're dropping these Blue of Earths, man.
That's her name.
I know.
Follow her on Instagram, folks. Blue of Earth.
Have you looked up like her Wikipedia page? Does Blue of Earth, does it have her old original name on there? Like I have a hard time believing her parents were like, oh, her name's going to be Blue of Earth.
I have a feeling that that's not her real name, but I also I don't think she's big enough or noteworthy enough to actually.
She doesn't have a wiki?
Wikipedia page.
What?
Yeah, and by the way, it's Blue, just BLU.
Oh, of course.
So Blue, BLU of Earth, and she's an interesting one.
Okay, here we go. Blue of Earth. I found an article. on newsunzip.com, which sounds like something that will probably add a virus to my computer, but whatever. Blue of Earth, a.k.a. Charlotte Brereton, 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 is a famous podcaster, social media influencer, motivational speaker, lifestyle blogger, author, and entrepreneur from the United States of America. So Charlotte became Blue of Earth, broke Aaron Rodgers' heart, put a hex on him, and apparently he is with the girl that you were talking about, Huss. I saw Quinn in the chat said he is indeed with her. So
well, there's a lot of people I think that had a crush on Mallory Edens a few years ago. If you recall, she was the Milwaukee Bucks representative at the NBA draft lottery, like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago or something like that.
Did they get Giannis that year?
I don't think so. Oh. I don't think so. That would be wild if they, the thing is, Giannis wasn't the number one pick. Like, Giannis went. Like Giannis went later on. There's a lot of teams that are kicking. I think he went 50.
She got the number one pick that year that she was there?
She got maybe number 2 or something like that.
I'm trying to think who it ended up being. Yeah.
But put it this way, it was hard to miss her there amongst all the other NBA executives, and then like a cute 21 or 22-year-old there doing the picks for the Bucks. But obviously comes from quite a wealthy family, and anyways, that's the one thing Aaron left with from Wisconsin when he left, the Bucks owner's daughter. Yeah. But listen, we won't have to talk a lot of Aaron Rodgers right now, but I will tell you this. Any Cleveland Browns fans in the chat, how are you feeling about your boy Deshaun Watson right now? Because, I was going back and forth between both games, and again, that game started late, so I was sort of, at this point, sort of locked more in on the Carolina Saints game because it was later on. But, man, we had Andy McNamara on yesterday.
How is he feeling about him?
Dude, he was
distraught.
Not good.
Yeah.
Distraught was a perfect way to describe it. Because not only did they lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game where the Steelers offense scored 12 points and their defense scored 14 points. But he's been terrible. And man, pardon my take, was dropping some stats of where he has been amongst comparison to other NFL QBs since week 12 of last season, whenever he came back. It's like 33rd in the league. There's 32 starting quarterbacks. And then, of course, you lose Nick Chubb. And the Chubb injury was just, that was extra salt in the wounds for, I think, a lot of Browns fans. And certainly it was brutal on fantasy. Speaking of fantasy and Chubb.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt is back with the Browns.
It was an automatic, wasn't it?
I sort of thought, though, although Andy thought that, what they'd put in, they were high enough on Ford that they probably wouldn't go that way. But I think we've seen these guys can go down so quickly. You're nuts not to have a couple of guys. Like, I don't think Hunt's going to just walk in and be getting more touches than Ford. We'll see what they do with their opportunities. Did
you claim Ford in any leagues?
Maybe that'll change. I did, but I didn't get him. It's funny. On the ESPN fantasy tracker app, there's a spot in the league where you can look at the offer history, like for the waiver week.
Okay.
And it was wild. In our league, 3 guys made significant bids for Ford. 60, 61, and 62. They were all within a dollar.
No way.
Of each other.
How much is that budget? How big is that budget?
100.
Oh, wow. That's a big chunk. That's a big chunk to pay that, get him, and then have Kareem Hunt sign the next morning.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's not.
I put in a few claims for him. I don't know if I haven't dove into it yet. I want to bring this up. Hey, and obviously Lock Shop, betting, fantasy. We'll do a bunch of it. And we've got a few texts on that, 780-218-9999. I want to bring this one up because we were talking about Deshaun Watson. So I have Justin Fields in the Juan Rincon Football League with my buddies. And my one buddy just offered me Deshaun Watson and Khalil Herbert for Justin Fields. And I know Justin Fields hasn't been lighting the world on fire by any stretch of imagination. I am very desperate for a running back in that league, but I'm not touching Deshaun Watson. I have Deshaun Watson in a couple of my other leagues. In one, I have Anthony Richardson If Richardson's healthy, I think I'd probably start him ahead of Deshaun Watson right now. I have another guy too.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another league where Watson is also on my bench, and I think I'm starting Jared Goff or something right now. Like Deshaun Watson, I don't know, man. He looks like a guy who once had a ton of potential and then completely threw his life into being a mess and got this massive contract and has no motivation to be great anymore. It's ridiculous.
Either that, I mean, last year, I mean, and listen, I shouldn't say I can understand. I can understand. I've never been involved in any legal issues like Deshaun Watson has been. But I could conceive that if you were being hounded by something so public, so serious, and so expensive, that might be difficult, frankly, to concentrate on other things for a long time.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, he's paid off who he's had to pay off. The lawyers are rich. Now it's time to go out and win some football games. And he will. I mean, as cynical as this is amongst the Browns fans, if he wins a bunch of football games and they make the playoffs, they win the division, he has a good next couple of years. With most of the fans, I mean, that won't be such a huge story anymore, whether it should be or not. I'm not saying yay or nay. But if he continues to struggle, and to top it all off, and this was maybe a little unfair of me, mean of me, in fact, when I had Andy on the show yesterday, we were talking about all these things with the Browns and Deshaun. The other thing about Cleveland Browns fans is they still freaking love Baker Mayfield. And I said, so, by the way, what did you think about the start of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Didn't.
And you could just see the groan. Like, Baker did a lot of good things there. Beat the Steelers in the playoffs. I mean, and then for whatever reason, had a rough year. They fell out of favor for him, and they thought they could just, spend the massive amounts of money. And listen, they did trade a lot to get Deshaun as well from the Texans, but it's not going so well. And the problem with that, they kind of remind me of the Jets a little bit. I'm not going to put their defense right up on that level with New York's, but it's really good. I mean, they do have a lot of the pieces right now. Like, if I truly believe that if Deshaun Watson was playing at the Pro Bowl level that he showed when he was with the Texans right now, I mean, the Browns would be in the mix in the AFC. They've got enough talent around them right now. But yeah, that was ugly on Monday night. Huge win for the Steelers. Their offense didn't look much better. But man, when you got a defense that can manufacture a couple touchdowns, you're going to win most of those games.
I think that's probably the case. Nielsen and Huss with you here on The Lock Shop. If you were listening at EdmontonSportsTalk.com on the live stream and you want to text us, 780-218-9999. And of course, you can chime in the YouTube chat as well. This text comes in. They didn't put their name on it, but says, a guy in my league paid all $100 for Jerome Ford. The entire budget on Ford. I think the highest I went on him was like $25. Like I was worried they were going to bring somebody in.
Didn't get him, did you?
Yeah, no, I didn't get him, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'd rather save the money for something that we deem a sure thing somewhere down the road. It was just too quick. It was too quick to have to hop on that for that amount of fab, I think.
Who was the massive injury in week 1 last year? One of the running backs.
And it was everybody was all over it.
Yeah.
Who was it?
I can't remember the player, but I do remember in one of my leagues, one guy just unloading the chamber, $100, week 1 waiver wire. So he had $0 fab dollars for the rest of the year, but he got his guy. It is.
Oh, I'd like to know who this is. Yeah, somebody let us know. Somebody on the text line or in the. It wouldn't have been Cam Akers, right? It wouldn't have been like Akers going down.
No.
Who would it have been last year? Was it Leonard Fournette? Did Fournette go down? Somebody will get
Fournette. if you can remember who that was, who was the massive week 1 waiver wire guy. So we got some good action in the chat.
Yeah.
Quinn Phillips. What's up, Quinn? And yes, Doc, I know it is YouTube, but I'll put that thing away until after the show.
Richard on the YouTube chat says, thanks to Kikuchi for staying awake long enough to cash strikeout number 7 so I could cash my cool bet. So yes, that's nice. Came through there. Somebody will get us the name of whoever that big waiver claim was. This always happens. And I don't know how many week 1 or week 2 waiver claims that everybody spends all their fab on actually end up helping you win the league, Huss. It's good for a couple weeks usually, and then that's about it.
Well, this is killing me thinking about this from last year, because I do think that in retrospect, I mean, it's crazy that you unload the entire thing, but it was a guy that had a pretty big impact. Speaking of big impacts, this Puka Nakua, especially as long as Cooper Kupp is out, he's had the most productive first 2 games ever for a receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, well, and I know they've said that even when Cooper Kupp comes back. Now, obviously, Cooper Kupp will take a ton of targets when he comes back, but they said Nakua is still going to be heavily involved in the offense. So that's good news for everybody.
Have you heard any updates on Kupp? I mean, is he still on track to come back after the first 4 games?
I haven't heard that he's not, but I don't know if he's coming back, when they said exactly. Willie is in the YouTube chat and says it's Travis Etienne, and everybody was going hard on James Robinson. Would that have been it?
That could very well be it. Although I think in most leagues, Robinson probably would have been already owned.
Yeah, but if he wasn't, that would have been a pretty heavy week.
It is. Well, the fab management of the fab budget is interesting, and you know that actually in a lot of leagues you can trade your fab dollars too.
Yeah, on the Sleeper app you can trade fab dollars.
Yeah, I was just kind of sniffing around on a couple potential deals and realized that I have not executed one of those trades as of yet, but. We'll do it. Savage the Plumber. I always thought Watson was a tad overrated. I mean, he was damn good with the Texans.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, you think back to, there was a time when Deshaun Watson and the Texans were up 24-0 on the Chiefs in the playoffs, I think that might have even been the divisional round, that far away from going to the. Now, they ended up giving up 51 points in that game after starting off being spotted 24. But, they were good. They're just the Texans are never a team that, until you really do something in the playoffs, they're just sort of one of those newer teams that haven't done much. But, he played it. Anyway, the bottom line is he's nowhere close to where he was in the past. And they better get it because they gave him $240 million guaranteed reasons that he needs to show up and do something for the Browns.
We got a text that says Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, Quinn Phillips, Elijah Mitchell. Boom.
Is that the one? That was the one?
Eli Mitchell last week. Yeah, because that was back when
was that Mostert?
It could have been either that or he just went off. No one knew who the Niner running back was. Oh, yeah, because there was who the heck was it? There was a guy, I don't even think he's on the roster anymore, and everyone thought that this guy was going to be the Niners running back, and then the season starts, and Eli Mitchell gets like 25 carries and goes off for 100-something, and it was very clear that...
And everybody goes nuts, yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't, you're not thinking Jeff Wilson, it was another guy.
Yeah. The guy had a lot of, he was like he had been drafted the year before.
Jordan Mason. Was it Jordan Mason?
Yes.
It was a Mason.
I think so.
I think it was a Mason who they were like, oh, this is going to be the year for him. And then Elijah Mitchell came out and did it. I think that was it.
Did absolutely nothing.
I'm just quickly looking at the NFL slates, just seeing if there's any sort of significant movement from what we saw yesterday. Detroit's now 3.5. They were 3 yesterday against Atlanta. Jags, that number I think was a crooked number yesterday. It's at 9 right now. I think it was 9.5 in that Houston-Jacksonville game. Miami's still the same, still a pick 'em in that Vikings game. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything too significant. 12.5.
It is funny. The very slight, because yesterday was minus 109 on either side for the Chargers and Vikings. There's obviously been a little bit of money on LA coming in at minus 114, and the Vikings are minus 103. We got 10.5 right now in this Giants-Niner game. I think that one might have been 9.5 yesterday. if I recall correctly. Not a lot of faith that Danny Dimes. I mean, hey, they're going to have that one quarter to show for their first 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
At least they won't be 0-3. and then it is funny. Either the Vikings or the Chargers, who I would say have both played quite well in some aspects in the first 2 weeks. One of those teams is going to be 0-3 at the end of the week. Bills laying 6.5 on the road against the unbeaten Commanders. No respect. No respect for the Commanders. What's going on?
I quickly flipped over to the CFL too. What was the line yesterday in BC Edmonton when we did this yesterday?
7.5.
Okay, so it's 6.5 now. So it's moved a bit.
Yeah.
I
bet that last night. I bet that the two ones we talked about yesterday on the lock shop, 7.5 for Edmonton was too good not to jump in early. And the Calgary money line at plus 115 and Calgary plus 2. And now that one is Calgary is just even money, plus 100 on the money line. And I'm seeing plus 1 at minus 105. The Ticat Argo game, which was 10, has now gone to minus 9.5. And we didn't talk about this much. What do you think about this early game on Friday? The Riders laying 1.5 in Ottawa to take on the Red Blacks. Red Blacks coming off that unbelievable blown lead at the end of the game against BC. Tough way to lose a game, especially when they're so desperate for some good results.
I like the Riders at 1.5 there. I think so. I mean, this is still a Riders team that beat BC and Winnipeg in the last 4 weeks. You know, I know they lost to Edmonton, but Edmonton's been one of the hottest teams in the league, and the other game was a game that, to be honest with you, they didn't even look like they wanted to be a part of in the Banjo Bowl, right? So,
have they given up? 88 in their last 2 weeks?
Oh no, they've given up like 1 million points in their last 6 games. There's a reason they give up the most points in the CFL. So maybe Crum does cause some issues for them, but I also think offensively they're pretty darn good. So I think they should be able to put up some points. I would take the Riders minus the 1.5 in that game. Jake is in the YouTube chat and says Stanley Cup final exact matchup Leafs Oilers is live. It's live at plus 4,000. Huss 40-1.
I like it. I'm going to throw a sprinkle down on that.
I'm doing it right now too.
Cheering for either of those teams, but it will be a real nice. It'll be a nice solitude or secondary prize consolation. That's the word I'm looking for. If we have to live here between a Leafs Oilers series that would take over the country and would be nauseating, I think, for fans that cheer for other Canadian teams, getting it at 40-1 would be a very, very nice consolation. So it's gonna be like protection. It's almost like insurance. If it happens,
at least you're gonna make a few $100 off of it. So that's okay. The other thing, I'm just looking at the NHL specials right now because that's where the Stanley Cup final exact matchup is. If you're watching right now and you want to hop on this, I just bet 10 on it and it would pay 400. If they were to make it 40-1. So 410, I guess. But also in there is Jack Campbell as starting goalie for the Oilers' first game of the regular season. This is something we've been talking about on our station here at Edmonton Sports Talk. You know, if Jack Campbell comes in and plays extremely well in the preseason and Skinner's just sort of so-so, would they start Jack Campbell in that first game? Yes is plus 130. No is minus 182. Haas, you got a guy who's coming off, being a nominee for the Calder, kind of took over last year, not saved your season, but provided you with goaltending enough to, do really, really well down the stretch. Stuart Skinner's starting this first game, isn't he?
Well, let's think about this here. To me, the best case scenario for the Oilers would be to have Jack Campbell be in the mix for that start, to have a great preseason, to play really well. I mean, he's the guy that, I guess they both got contracts. They're both under deals for the next 3 seasons. So they've got some cost certainty. But, I would think, listen, the odds are the way they are. It's pretty clear. I think it's most likely that Stuart Skinner gets that first start. But if they actually have a legit competition between the two and Jack Campbell plays his ass off and earns the start, like, to me, that's the best case for the Oilers, because then I think you've got two goalies that you can both count on. It didn't seem like that was the case last year. And as great as, they have the lineup, I still do wonder whether they've got one of those guys in that locker room that can win a cup for them. Mind you, we would have said the same thing about Laurent Brossoit and Aiden Hill for Vegas going into it, and they haven't been there. So, I mean, I think it's most likely to be Stuart Skinner. But don't you think that if Campbell played so well, it was a tough decision, that would be great for the Edmonton Oilers?
It would be great. I still think it would be Skinner. So if you don't mind the chalkiness of it, minus 182 is where you can get that. Tails 97.99 on the YouTube chat says they bet that Leafs Oilers Stanley Cup final exact matchup this morning. Every day you go to Coolbet, you basically see more NHL player props popping up. And the one, today it was, let's see here. Player goals. I was looking at player goals today, Huss, and it's just because his name starts with an A. It's one of the ones that's kind of sitting open right at the top. But I think it's an interesting conversation to have. Alexander Ovechkin, his goal prop, considering the trend that he's working towards, he's going to become, the all-time leading goal scorer. He scored 42 last year. The number this year is at 41.5. Where do you come out on that OV goal total for the year?
I think I'll probably go over. Two things. Number one, he still has it. I mean, I know there'll be, we will see the regression of Ovi at some point, but we really haven't seen it very much over the last couple of years. And now that they've won this cup and he's had this Hall of Fame career, like, I almost think that the winning in the playoffs, is, as dumb as this sounds, is maybe it's not secondary, but if it's 1A, getting Ovi the goal record is 1B. And it becomes like the longer you go into the career, it's more difficult. So to me, the priority this year for the Washington Capitals is going to be get Alex Ovechkin 50 plus on the board to get that much closer to Wayne Gretzky. So I think for this year, I'm probably in on Alex Ovechkin and the goal props. And as I say, you'll take the over on shots from Ovechkin every single opportunity this year, because that is going to be the MO of the Capitals. Get it to 8 and let him fire the puck.
Is Backstrom going to be healthy this year? Do we know? Like, is he back this year?
You know what? I have not dug into that enough.
I mean, he scored 42 last year with Backstrom playing 39 games.
Yeah.
Right? There a bunch of those guys. Tom Wilson played 33 games. Like, the Washington Capitals were very injury riddled last year. And I think if they can kind of get their team back, and TJ Oshie, 58 games, if they can get their team back here, I think there's a chance that Alexander Ovechkin sort of comfortably covers this 41.5.
Yeah, I mean, and Backstrom still has the 2 more years on his deal. And there's a lot of talk about Kuznetsov as well. Now, he's had some off-ice issues over the last few years. Not sure how much they can rely on him. But, man, they got $17 million tied up in those 2 centers. And both those guys, but particularly Backstrom, missed a big part of last season.
And John Carlson only played 40 games last year. Like, their entire first unit power play, with the exception of Ovi and Kuznetsov, were not available to them for half the season. So I think the fact that he scored 42 last year is actually very impressive. He even missed 9 games.
I'm in on 50.
Yeah.
I'm in on 50 for Ovi this year. I will definitely be taking the over.
52.5 for Austin Matthews.
Ooh. What did he have last year?
I'll bring it up right now. McDavid had over 60 last year. Pasternak had over 60 last year. And I think Austin Matthews was, let me just double check on it. He had 40 last year. But
and
that's after he had 60 the year before. He had 40 last year in 74 games. The total right now is at 52.5. So,
geez, that's a great line.
It is.
Because I could see him getting 50, but, and I guess if you're getting up at that point, I'd probably take the under. There's too many things that can happen. And to be honest, this team, what are they doing? It's all about the playoffs now for the Leafs. I would say that same thing about the Oilers too. I mean, if there's an issue where you need to shut a guy down for a little bit or give him some extra rest, both of these teams are going to be doing that. They should be comfortably in the playoffs as the season goes on. And they won't be risking anything for personal accolades. Like, he's had the 60-goal season. He's hit 50 before. He's won the Rocket Richard. Now it's time to win a Conn Smythe and win a Stanley Cup. So I'd probably fade that, but I could see him getting to 50. 53, I probably wouldn't bet on it, though.
All right, I'm sure you guys have talked about this on Winnipeg Sports Talk, but what about Kyle Connor at 37.5?
Well, here's the thing, and we're going to find out a lot in the next few days about the Winnipeg Jets. Dubois is gone, right? So the first question is, who's the second-line center? I think Cole Perfetti's going to get an opportunity to do that out of the gate. We'll see whether he can run with it. You've got Gabriel Velarde coming over from the LA Kings. I think he's the likely number 2 option. And then you've got a line. Like, if Perfetti is on that line and say it's Nikolai Ehlers and Niederreiter or Alex Iafallo, you're then stacking that top line with Scheifele in the middle, Kyle Connor, and likely Gabe Velarde. Connor scored 47 the year before. Last year, it seemed like everything was going in for Mark Scheifele. And sometimes they were playing together, sometimes they weren't. I actually thought that Connor had his best production when he was playing with Dubois, who was gone. So there's a big unknown as to how things are going to work on that second line, who is going to be on it. And then the other thing is that Velarde is, I mean, he's a bit of a sniper himself. I mean, he had 23 goals last year and only 18 assists. So if he sets up with those guys, who's kind of being more the trigger man? Like last year, Scheifele had a career high 42, but he actually dropped under a point a game for the first time in a long time. There was a lot that was going in for him, but he wasn't dishing or wasn't getting the assist the way that he had before. Kyle Connor is definitely capable of hitting 40 again. No problem. I guess I'd probably go over on that. The one good thing about Connor is he never misses games. He never gets hurt. He's never in the penalty box. I mean, he is he's about as reliable as a guy out there as always. But there are so many question marks about just how this Jets team is going to look, who's going to be playing with who. And then, of course, you've got the potential trade at some point of a guy like Scheifele, depending on what happens going forward. And you know, if all of a sudden you're trading that number 1 center for a guy that's nowhere near that right now, and it's a little bit more of a trade for the future, what does that do to a guy like Connor's present opportunities for scoring goals? Or they move someone else in there and hopefully they take it over right now. So, is there a Scheifele number there for goals?
I'll look it up right now, but I also have somebody in the YouTube chat, Tyson, saying, I want a Logan Stanley prop.
Yeah. That'll be a games played prop.
Yeah, here's a Mark Scheifele. Okay, did you look at it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
35 and
a half. And you know what, to be honest, that sort of is where I thought it would be. Like, honestly, the 42 goals was a bit of an outlier. And to be honest, I mean, the year before, 29 and 67, he had 21 and 56, 29 and 71. Then he had 38 in 82. That was a great year. He had the 84 points, and that was a career high. 23 and 60, 32 in 79. So, I mean, I think the smart money is on the under for Scheifele, in that, you know, last year really does kind of stand out as a little bit of an aberration. And you think about the potential guys that he's playing with that are definitely goal scorers as well. I think that might add to the assist total, but might take the goal total down a little bit. So I think you can probably count on 30 from Scheif. But if we're looking at 35 and a half, and this is assuming he's a Jet all year long, I guess there's plenty of different opportunities and different ways that could go. That could change right now. But that number definitely is juiced up a little bit because of just how many pucks went in the net for him last year, especially. I think he had like 29 in the first half of the season. So He had a hell of a hot start last year.
As we get closer to the NHL season, more things are going to pop up here in the NHL futures page over at Coolbet. So we'll do a few episodes where it's just dedicated. We'll give you like our 5 best bets from props and teams, very similar to what we did with the National Football League as well. Huss, what are you on? You got the play of the day coming up a little bit later on, but anything else you're on tonight? It's just I get so consumed with football when we don't have these football days. I get completely distracted because I'm already looking ahead to both the NFL and the CFL.
Well, you know what? We're only going to have a few of these slow Wednesdays because Wednesday's traditionally a pretty fun night in the National Hockey League, or at least some pretty big feature matchups. And we are, what are we? We're 2-3 weeks away from kicking off the NHL season. Yeah. I know. What's the Oilers' first game? Is it on that Wednesday, or do you guys open on the Tuesday the 10th?
Let me bring it up, buddy. I've been so busy putting this stuff together here at Edmonton Sports Talk. I haven't even dove into when we're going to be scheduling our first pregame show. Let's see here. When is it? Oh, I got to scan ahead here. Hang on. When do you guys start?
Jets start in Calgary on October 11th. It'll be the 10th or the 11th. I'm pretty sure.
Somebody will get us in the chat here. Here we go. It's not the 10th. In Vancouver on the 11th. Yeah, late game. Late game in the 11th. Right. They'll have that'll be a Wednesday night doubleheader, I would think. Habs Leafs play at 5 o'clock. Oilers Canucks at 8. And Jets and Flames at 8 too. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of those pregame shows, I'm already fired up to jump on with Tommy Gazzola, Handsome Tommy, on October 21st.
Yeah, you're going to be here, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, we'll high five each other on the air when we pass each other. But yeah, I'll be in Edmonton for the game. And shout out to great EST sponsor, friend of the show, Damon Bunting. Be hanging out with Bunty at the game.
Good.
My old pal from the pit in the Oilers days.
We have a great joke going how if you want to become a slumlord in town, Damon Bunting's the guy you talk to.
That's great. Yeah. Way to promote the sponsors. So awesome.
Actually, he texted me last week. He goes, "You'll not believe how many people texted me about the slumlord bit." I was like, "Perfect. Sell a house."
Hey, shows they're listening.
Yeah,
shows they're listening.
Exactly. Right. Mission accomplished on that front. But yeah, you guys, you'll be here that day, and I'll be doing the Elks Bombers game in Edmonton. There.
Elks Bomber game, which is a game that originally, when I was planning to come out, I'm like, well. And last home game, not really a big deal. I'm sure most of the playoff things will be taken care of. Elks are done. Listen, Bombers got to play Toronto next week at BC. And then I guess there's the potential that they could clinch the West with a win at home against Edmonton in that game. But I think it's also likely. And maybe for guys like Cowboy in the chat, we can also get that 13 wins because that was the prop we hit pretty hard at the beginning of the season in the lock shop. And by the way, we've already moved this Oilers Leafs line to 35.
I was wondering because
trying to bet it.
I was looking right at it. I was looking right at it and it disappeared. I got it at the plus 4,000. So
I was betting it and it was too big of a bet. And it held me. I said, okay, well, whatever, I'll put this thing in. And then it said odds changed. And now I can't get it. And now I think I'm seeing 35. So, yes, you got to get in there early, folks. You got to get in there early.
It's almost a detriment to us when we see a good line. If we don't bet it in time and we start talking about it, it's going to move. Like you're going to see the odd time when you start talking about a line. I'm going to be going like this. Don't say anything.
I'm going to petition the powers that be to let me get my full wager in at 40 to 1.
Luckily, we know those people, so that's kind of nice. Old Gil in the YouTube chat says Justin Fields has said that his coach was making him pause in the pocket. He's looking to get back to being himself. Smash the over on rushing yards this week, 0-2, and fighting for his future job possibly.
Not an easy place to do it.
Who do they play this week?
They're in Arrowhead.
Oh boy. Yeah.
First time ever, I believe there's been a matchup between the quarterbacks with the best winning percentage in the league career and the worst.
Well, with that being said, the Chiefs are 0-1 at home.
Well, I mean, yes, thank you, Kadarius Toney. That would be it'll take a while to get over that one. They look pretty good. The thing about it is the Chiefs have been winning on their defense. Like the offense was okay last week, and it was nice to see Kelsey back in there, and Toney actually caught a few balls. But it was the defense that was handling Trevor Lawrence and the Jags last week. So we'll kind of dive into those more. I guess tomorrow we can make those official CFL picks for the weekend.
Yeah, tomorrow and Thursday night football. Yeah,
I know we're in a good spot. Yeah, and that Thursday nighter between the Niners and the Giants, it should be fun. And then I guess next week on Wednesday we're going to be having preseason games. I think those 2 Wednesday shows the next 2 weeks will have to be a NHL
shows,
Propapalooza, where we're each firing on 4 or 5 of our favorite props. I will say this, and I see Tyson. There's a few WST guys in there. The line A prop is 30.5.
I saw that today.
Patrick Laine scores 30 in his sleep. Like, as long as he's out there, and as I said, I think what has happened with this whole Babcock scenario, I think it's actually going to be good for Pascal Vincent. I think it's going to be for the team. I think it'll actually bring them closer together. So I'm excited for the Line A season coming up. And I'm really interested to see where Fantilli fits in. Like, Fantilli's going to probably be able to play in a role, like whether he's with a Gaudreau or a Line A, like
a first-year Matty Beniers type, right? Like, kind of step in and contribute.
Now, again, we're still slamming Bedard for the rookie, for rookie of the year. But what'll be interesting to see maybe some totals on his points. Wouldn't be surprised if he might get in there. But again, we love Line A here. He's going to get a lot of love on that over 30.5 for his goal prop for the year.
Plus, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today? What do you got?
Well, you know what? Just as we have been speaking and doing the lock shop, Rick Bowness has been speaking out at Iceplex, and Kevin Cheveldayoff as well. So we'll be listening to that. TSN's Dan Robertson, voice of the Jets, is going to jump on with us. And our pal Marat Atesh from The Athletic with, I guess, official eve of training camp takes, predictions, storylines, discussions, and we'll get into that Blue Jays game.
Did you have his mom on your show at some point?
His mom popped on, yes, in the middle of a segment.
Yeah,
and
we saw that in the offices here. I was like, oh, Marat's mom.
Marat's mom is very popular within Jets fans because often when things have been going wrong, he will, part of one of his columns, he'll just ask his mom, and his mom has some wonderful takes. So she happened to be in town in there.
Beautiful.
So we popped on for a little bit, and we got her outlook for the upcoming season. But Marat is a great, great friend of ours. He's coming on today, and eve of training camp, by the way. And hey, if you're listening right now, we're just about at 4K subs for Edmonton Sports.
Almost there. Very close. Very close.
Let's ring the bell here. Get it to 4K right away and then on to 5.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of the day here.
And for you ESTers, do me a favor. Hit up Winnipeg Sports Talk. Give us a sub there. We hope to get to 10K by puck drop on October 11th.
How far away are you? How far away are you?
We're I think we're like 986 right now, 9.86.
Okay.
Or we need about another 140 or so. And things have sort of picked up again in September, as always with sports radio content. Kind of a little bit of a lull in the month of August, but we're back. Crowds are back. Great to see you guys back. And by the way, shout out to the hat. I love the fact that you had those beautiful bomber colors for the Edmonton Sports Talk hat.
Oh, well done, Huss. You have a good show today, buddy. We will. That's a really good point. You're right. They do look like bombers from a distance. All right, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll do some CFL, NFL Thursday night. Have a good show.
It's going to be great. Take it easy. Check out the Coolbet socials. We'll be hitting up, hopefully, with another winner for the play of the day a little later on today. Later, guys.
See you later, man. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football 5. Dusty with you once again. And as always, the Fantasy Football 5 is brought to you by Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road, the NFL home of Edmonton Sports Talk. So if you're planning on getting out on a Monday or Thursday night, or how about this, every Monday or Thursday night, or every Thursday night, or every Monday night, or whatever, slide on by. Lieutenant Eric will be set up there. We're going to put together a time when all of us are going to go, and hopefully we can get a bunch of listeners out there, and we'll have a nice little Monday or Thursday night party at the Sports Bar and Lounge at Century Casino on Fort Road. They're presenting the Fantasy Football 5. If you have any fantasy football questions right now, hit us up. Don't waste your time. We only have the Fantasy Football 5. It's not the Fantasy Football 20. So get it moving. 780-218-9999. That's 780-218-9999. Or on the YouTube chat as well. You can get in there. How many of you, and this is why you have to be careful with this. This is why yesterday when people were asking, well, Dusty, how much do I put in on Jerome Ford? Because, what if they sign somebody? And now, who knows? They get Kareem Hunt. Does that mean that Kareem Hunt all of a sudden picks up where he left off with some pretty good games over the last few years and he's the guy? Or what this does is, I don't know if you're rushing out to get your hands on Kareem Hunt as opposed to you're just lowering your expectations for Jerome Ford, right? You look at what Ford was going to bring to the table. If Kareem Hunt doesn't exist and Nick Chubb's gone and there's really not much of a threat there, oh boy, this guy's going to be an RB1 the rest of the year. That's not how it works early in the season for these guys. You end up blowing your entire budget, and then the very next morning you wake up, you see that Kareem Hunt just signed with the Cleveland Browns, and all you're thinking is, my God, it's a bad dream. What have I done? Why have I spent all of this money on Jerome Ford? We had somebody earlier on the Lock Shop say somebody in their league spent the entire fab budget on Ford. Now, what's that guy do for the rest of the season? I mean, I'm not going to say your season's over. Hopefully the rest of your team's pretty good, but your ability to determine when you want to sign free agents is essentially over, and you did it in week 2 for Jerome Ford. That's a tough one. Kevin says, I lost out on Ford and got Hunt. So that's good. If it's a fab league, probably a little bit cheaper. I'm not in many fab leagues. Who ended up getting Ford in, let's see here. All of our waiver wires went through. I'm in one league. They don't run waivers until tonight. Oh, somebody already had Jerome Ford in our Rusty Truck League. How's that possible? I guess it's a deep league. We got a league where 16 teams, 9 on the bench. So I guess it would make sense that he was all. So in that league, Craig Reynolds was added. Pierre Strong was added, which is pretty much a waste right now. Westbrook was added. Josh Palmer, Tony Jones. I tried to get Tony Jones in a few leagues. Let me see here quickly if I ended up getting Tony Jones in any of my sleeper leagues. Probably not. I think you have to manage your fab budget very carefully. I'm very careful with my fab money early in the year. So in the one league, and I'm pretty desperate for a running back. I have Eckler in that league and Montgomery. So that sucks. I also have the running back, not Tony Jones, Miller with the Saints, who's just kind of getting healthy. So I'm hoping he can maybe do some damage. But I did put in bids for Breda. I put in bid for Jones. I put in a bid for Ford. But I didn't go anything higher than 25% of my budget. So I don't even know if I'm going to end up getting those guys, which means I might be less scrambling at running back. But at the same time, I think I'd rather have those fab dollars than a running back who's going to be replaced by somebody or he himself is hurt somewhere along the way as well. Chris says, if Keandre Miller is good to go against Green Bay, would you start him over Chuba Hubbard? I would say yes. I would start him over Chuba Hubbard. I know he's coming off an injury and he hasn't played, but they really like this guy. And I think Miller is one of those guys like late in drafts where I didn't go early on running back. I'd kind of just wait and sort of take him later and hope that, some injuries sort of open the door for him just because of the draft capital that they ended up using on him. Savage the Plumber says, I have Ford already, and I'm low on running backs if that helps. He says, I'll ask the question. Hunt and Kittle for Debo and Kincaid. Yeah, I think I'd probably take the Debo Kincaid side of that one. I just don't have, that's tough. We always said forever, if Nick Chubb got hurt, Kareem Hunt could be a league winner. Is that still the case for a guy who was just sitting around as a free agent? These are the risks that you'll have to take in the world of fantasy football here on the Fantasy Football 5. Tomorrow, we'll hopefully have time to slide in a little Fantasy Football 5 action as well. We'll let you know starts and sits for the Thursday night football game, but the Fantasy Football 5, if you're just watching here, I know it's super quick at the end of the lock shot before we get to the oil stream, but every day it is podcasted. Just search for Fantasy Football 5, and you can subscribe, get a nice little 5, 7, 8, 9 minutes, whatever it ends up being, for your drive home in the afternoon, leading in to the weekend coverage of the National Football League. Tommy has made it. He was at practice, not even practice today. He was at the opening day. A few guys spoke. They had a team meeting, and we'll find out everything going on with the Edmonton Oilers on the oil stream, which is coming up right away right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
The Lock Shop.
We've been doing this for a long time. We spend all this time